Hello, my name's Christine, aka Crafti Potential, and I'm a crafter for Tonic Studios, and today I'll be making the Perfect Percolator for you. So first of all, for this Perfect Percolator, you need all of these pieces to create the lid of the percolator. So you need this piece here, which I've already added my decorative panels to, and I've done that for quite a few of the other pieces as well, just to save a bit of time. You also need 4 of this piece here, which gives you the 2 sides, because it's an octagonal lid, so each side gives you the 2 different sides that creates that octagon. So you need 4 of those, and I've already added my decoration onto them. Then you also need, for the handle, you need 4 of this little piece here, which again, I've already added my little decorative panel to. I've just used mirror card for that. And then you also need this little piece here, which again, I've added a mirror card piece to. And actually, that mirror card piece comes out of the center of this piece. So the idea is you use the larger square to be the top of your handle. And then the smaller square, you use it to cut out an aperture in a small matten layer for the lid that allows the handle of the percolator to be securely attached, and you can actually use that smaller square then to decorate the top of the handle. So it's kind of like a 2-in-1 piece, which is fantastic. So let's first of all start putting together some of the lid elements of this percolator. So let's get started on the handle, and then we'll go to the lid, and then we'll probably come back and go backwards and forwards whilst things dry nicely. So for this tiny little handle, you have these triangular glue tabs here, and those are the ones that you want to stick onto this square. These tabs at the side will be to pull the handle in together, and then these little tabs at the bottom are what we will use to attach it to this piece, which allows us to securely attach it onto the lid of the box. So we're going to go with the triangular tabs first, and we're going to add a little bit of glue onto the triangle, and then we're going to take our square. I often do this, squish it back and forwards a little bit just to make the glue a little bit more tacky, and then we can line that up so we've got the cut line of the square against the score line of that tiny little side panel there. And I have pre-folded everything. I have folded everything in a mountain, but this one will eventually be in a valley fold and going away from this little handle, but it doesn't really matter because it is just a glue tab for securing it to this piece. So that is the first one on. Then we want to add glue to the next glue tab, and again do that sort of squishing technique, and it kind of makes the glue grab more instantly, and we can press that one into position. Then the third one. So while the glue dries on this portion of the handle of our lid, we can move on to the lid portion. So for this, you can see that there are 8 glue tabs around the edge of this octagonal. It's almost like a square with its corners clipped off rather than a true octagon shape. But you then notice on the side panels that there is a larger side and a smaller side, and they correspond with the larger and the smaller glue tabs that go around here. So we're going to stick all of the larger glue tabs into position first, just all the way around, making sure well, there is only one way that you can stick this on, but making sure that the triangular one is the same side all the way around. We've got those first 4 sides glued into place. We can put this to one side and bring our handle back in, because the glue has had plenty of time to dry really nicely in there. And if you want to make this a little bit more sturdy, you can take another square and stick this on the inside of the handle as well. And I have one cut, so we might as well put that inside just to make it really secure. I don't think it's going to come apart, but I had that one cut ready, so might as well use it. Then the next step is to bring the sides down, and we're going to join the sides with these side glue tabs here, and it actually joins at an angle so that the top of the handle is a bigger square than the bottom of the handle, hence why we use that smaller square that we can use as decoration to cut the little aperture for it to sit into this decorative piece here. So we're going to go all the way around and add our glue onto that side panel, bring it round, press it really firmly into position, and you might also want to use a peg here. I think the best way to do it is to fold that glue tab back, the one that we're going to use to attach it to this, and then peg it into position. That should be holding it in the perfect place then. We can move round to the next glue tab, add our adhesive onto there, press that really firmly, get rid of all of that excess glue, and then fold that glue tab backwards again, and bring in another little peg just to make sure we're going to get some good strong bond on this with the glue. Then we can do the next one, and at this point it's going to be easier if we then leave this to dry before we finish off that final glue tab, just because we've got so many pegs and it's such a small piece to be working on. So we will come back to that one, and in the meantime we'll come back to the actual lid of the percolator, and this time we're coming round and we're bringing the side panels around. So those small little side panels, we're just going to bring them all around and stick them onto the appropriate glue tab on the actual top of the percolator as well. So we're going to bring them all round like this so that we're going to get a continuous top portion. So we can add our glue onto there, press really firmly, get rid of any excess glue, and I think that's going to hold nicely without a peg, but actually we could do this 2 glue tabs at a time. Stick that glue tab first and then stick this glue tab here as well, and I think that's going to hold it in position better, and we can use a peg on this bottom corner then as well. So if we then press this nice and firmly, remove any excess adhesive, and now we can use a peg just there to hold that nicely into position. And again, all of these side panels here, I have done the pre-folding on them, and everything is just a mountain fold on all of these just to make it really simple. So I'm just going to go round and do that. I'll come back to you on the last one just in case it's a little bit fiddly. I can show you any tips and tricks with that. So for this final side, this glue tab is going to be really easy to get to, but because we can't pull this glue tab or this side panel down now, this one's going to be a bit trickier. So we're going to go with our tip that we've been using a lot recently, where we really fold this glue tab inwards and we can add our adhesive onto there, and it's not going to come into contact with our side panel until we push it into place from the inside. So first of all, we're only working on this top glue tab here. So we're pulling this round, and we're just making sure that goes into position, and press it firmly, squeezing out any excess adhesive. And then we can line up this final edge here and push that glue tab that we added the glue into position from the inside of the lid as well. So now we can press that firmly, add a peg onto there just to make sure it's going to stay in the perfect position whilst that dries. But that is now the main basis of our lid, and we can go back to the handle of the lid now because this has had plenty of time to dry. So we can now remove the 3 pegs that were holding those first 3 sides, and now we've got the tricky task of getting this glue tab inside here and adding the adhesive to it as well. But because we've let the first 3 dry, we're not going to risk everything coming apart as we try to do this. So we're going to carefully ease it behind that front panel. It doesn't matter if you bend it or you accidentally rip it because it's just a glue tab, and then we can add our adhesive into there and press that into position from the inside. Again, if you can't get your fingers on the inside, then the glide folder, a thick pen or something to go into that and just allow you to push some pressure from the inside will work brilliantly. and now we have our finished little handle. I think that side's going to be fine straight away, so we can now actually attach it onto this piece here, which is going to make it really nice and secure for putting it onto our lid. So what we want to do here is make all of those glue tabs straight upwards so that we can fit through this little square here. And then each one of these is going to stick down on the underside of this mirror card piece. Now these little glue tabs are a little bit bigger than this piece, so we can just trim those off once they're stuck. You could have used the larger like clipped corner sort of piece there as well, so you could have gone with the larger one, then it wouldn't matter, but I decided to go with the smaller one, and it's no bother just snipping off those tiny little pieces afterwards. So we're just going to add a little bit of glue under the first glue tab there, pinch it to make sure it's nicely securely joined, and remove any excess glue. Make sure nothing's squeezed out onto the mirror card on the other side. Flip up the opposite one, add a bit more adhesive on there, press that into position, and as I'm pressing these I'm making sure that the aperture of that small little square is lining up with all of these score lines as we go round. And then we can move on to the other two glue tabs, pressing them firmly into position, and the final one as well. So now this should be really nicely secured, so when we add this to our box it's kind of pulling on something rather than it just being stuck on with those small little glue tabs all folded under the handle. It's sort of more securely added to the base or to the lid of the box. You could do extra layers and things if you want to as well, depending on how you want to attach this, what decoration you want, but for this one we're just going to trim off those little glue tabs that are hanging out. You can just about see the blue card peeking out in a few areas around that mirror card. So I'm just going to come in with my scissors and snip that off, and it's not going to mess up the integrity of anything. It's literally just a little bit of a long glue tab for the shape that I decided to choose. And then we can add this onto the top of our box. Now you can definitely use hot glue to add this, or I'm just going to use some 3D foam actually. I felt like maybe a little bit of 3D foam would sort of add a little extra height to that middle section and add to the sort of design. So I'm just going to add a few pieces of 3D foam around the edge here, and then we'll be able to really securely press this into position in a second. So we've got 4 pieces of 3D foam around that edge there, and then we can remove the backing, place this into the centre of the lid inside the decoration that I had already added onto that top portion of the lid, and then once we're happy with the positioning, press really firmly from the inside onto that foam tape just to make sure it's sticking down really nicely. So now we have finished the lid of our percolator, and we can move on to the base of the percolator. So this is a similar concept, however all of the sides are the same width rather than changing width, and all of the sides are separate. So there's 2 different sides here. You've got a more rectangular side and a more triangular side, and you're going to need 4 of each because the base of this is octagonal, but each of the sides are an equal sizing. So basically when we're going around this we're just going to alternate. We're going to go 1 rectangle panel, 1 triangular panel, all the way around the base of this percolator. So now we've got all of those panels joined to the bottom of the percolator, we can begin to build up the sides. So we have a glue tab along each side of each of the panels, so we're literally just going to add glue and then fold them up together, and you can even see where they line up because this triangular panel has got a tiny little notch in it, just there in the glue tab, so that it doesn't interfere with the slit of how the lid goes on, which is really nice. A good indicator of where the glue tab and the panel is exactly supposed to line up, and it also means that you won't have to like trim anything away with a glue tab overlapping, which is lovely as well. And we can have a look from the inside and see that that is perfectly lined up with the glue tab and that slit there as well. So we've got our first side in, and we can peg that into position just to make sure it stays in place really nicely. We can bring the next side up, and then I'll continue round until the last side, where I'll come back and show you how that goes together. Okay, so we've just got the last side left here, and again, the easiest way to get this final sort of glue tab into position is to fold this one back so it's not in our way, add the adhesive onto this one ready, but then focus on this glue tab here. So adding our adhesive onto there as well, pulling this side panel in, but you can see because this is folded inwards, it's not going to interfere with that triangular panel yet. And we can focus on the rectangular panel going up to the previous triangular panel, and we can use a peg to hold that into place. And then on this piece here, you can see they're not touching yet until we line this up nicely and push that glue tab over from the inside, and now we're going to get a good bond on that final side of the box. And again, if you can't get in there very easily, a glide folder or a bone folder or a card creaser is going to be brilliant for pressing from the inside. Okay, so now that has all finished drying, we can take all of our little pegs off that were holding things into position, and we can add the lid of our percolator to the base. And you can see that the four larger sides of this piece have got this tab on, and then the main four sides, because if these were triangular sides, it's made this top portion into a square now rather than being octagonal. And the way this top piece is sort of formed, you've now got a square with tiny little corners cut off rather than large corners cut off. You've got tiny corners, and that's going to help when we put this lid on. Lining up all of those tabs into the slits is going to help the lid go down and match up onto the sides, just having that little flat side in there. So we've now got our finished little percolator, but I've got a few extra elements that I've die cut ready to add on to here. Because I decided to use a plain panel on this larger triangular side, I thought we could add on some of the coffee beans. So I just cut 4 of the solid shape and 4 of the detailed shape from both different colours of cardstock, so from a mirror cardstock and from the ocean blue cardstock. And I think, do we think the mirror card with the ocean blue on top or the ocean blue with the mirror card on top would look good? Or we could add both on each side. I think both on each side actually. I was going to save some for somewhere else, but I think both on each side of the box is going to look really good. So I've put some 3D foam on the back of these, and I think we're going to go one like that and then one like this, just to really emphasize the sort of coffee theme of this box, because we've got the coffee beans in the top panels. You can also use a coffee bean design on these panels as well, and then you've got the sort of coffee cup kind of design on the other 4 sides too. So because I've done ocean with the mirror card on top, at the bottom here I'm going to do the opposite over here. So we're going to do the mirror card based one for the bottom, and then we'll do the ocean one further up, and then we'll swap back again just to give it a little bit of difference, going all of the way around our little percolator. Ooh. And last 2. there we go. So there is our finished Perfect Percolator. I hope you enjoyed this video showing how to put it together, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!